let the dogs out. And now it's gonna be the revenge. It's gonna be a big revenge.
Don't talk about my mom for one. Don't you ever talk about my mom.
Is it a little more exciting to fight the guy with Dana White privilege, right? I mean, you nailed it with him.
I don't think that shit's very funny.
No?
Don't you ever talk about my mom.
182 boys, let's get into it. Right away, we're going to start by recapping last week's picks, UFC 304 from Manchester, an insane card. And we had a lot of success over here at Meatboy MMA, but if you're not interested in the recap, head straight to the comments. We'll be breaking down UFC on ABC 7, and it's a banger from UAE. But before we talk about this week's fights, Meatboy, what were your thoughts on last week? Let's start with the meatlock. It was an obvious, high-confidence meatlock. We called it a meatlarkin for Mick Parkin, and the dude cashed. Easy to light work, got his first round finish, his first finish in the UFC, got the 100K bonus as well. What did you make of Meat Larkin's performance?
Yeah, Meat Larkin is an absolute G. That was the lock nonetheless. When you're training with Tom Loxmanol, you only know you're going to get, the best training partner out of it, and so it makes sense on how well he performed. He won with the KO, and so did his training partner, Tom Loxmanol, with the KO. So it was exactly what we kind of expected. I thought actually Mick was going to get it, maybe a sub, but hey, love to see the KO finish.
Yeah, and you even called it. You said first round finish. I think even if we run the tape, Meat Boy, you said KO or submission. So
I think he's due for a finish in this one, and I could absolutely see a KO.
We got Mick Parkin Meat Larkin at minus 285, which we sort of thought was a little bit expensive at the time, but the dude closed around minus 550, so turned out to be stage timing from the Meat Boys. We doubled up easy light work, and it was a great win nonetheless. And Mahav Makayev was another interesting one. We discussed the card demotion, the sense that they were supposed to be on the main card, then they were curtain jerkers for the early prelims. Well, we were kind of onto something, because now 2 days removed from the event, Mahav Makayev, despite getting the victory, is no longer re-signing with the UFC. Dana essentially said the PFL is going to get a very good undefeated fighter, and a very fascinating statement made, because Makayev is undefeated, has beat everyone the UFC fed to him, but almost in like an Elias Theodoro type situation. Rest in peace to Elias. The win streak wasn't enough, and he's off to PFL. Do you think it was more so the behind-the-scenes stuff? Apparently, his management was trying to over-leverage himself a little bit by talking with the PFL while still under contract. I mean, what do you make of Makayev, despite getting the victory, heading over to PFL?
Yeah, I think Makayev, there's just, in business you have employees, right? And some employees act out of the company's best interest, like getting into a random fight at the training center where everyone's trying to get better or recover. It's like they don't need the drama, they don't need the hassle, and then he pulls a slime ball move trying to take a selfie with the opponent who's going to fight and then sucker punches. I'm sorry, but any business or any organization should fire that person on the spot, and the UFC didn't really need any more to say. Makayev begged for his job, begged for a resign, and that performance was just so lame. I mean, his opponent had a broken toe, and he barely beat him, I felt like. It wasn't even like if your toe's broken, you're so handicapped in fighting. That's how you throw all your power. That's how you shoot your takedowns. Your big toe is like one of the main things when you're standing and fighting and in that octagon. He basically didn't capitalize on anything. He played scared. I'm just going to get points because he has a broken toe. And it was just a coward act. I don't know. Not a fan. Very not cool things. And like, what grown men are fighting for free because of stupid Instagram beefs? Like, such child immature people. I get why the UFC said the PFL, because PFL could probably use someone very undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. And he essentially, like you said, he's just sort of a liability, right? The juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore. And although he's able to win fights through his sort of snooze bros type dominant style, it apparently wasn't enough to keep him around, wasn't fan-friendly enough for the UFC, and really kind of disappointing because Mikhaev, we've been hearing about this kid since he was 14. He was supposed to be, Tom Aspinall, I say it all the time, would often describe Mikhaev as having a championship energy about him, even as a young teenager. So to see this sort of unceremonious conclusion to his UFC tenure, at least for the story so far, a little bit of a bummer. And like you said, he was essentially begging for his job. He even got on the mic and was like, "What do you think, fans? How much of you want me to re-sign with the UFC?" And it was his hometown crowd, and it was still kind of crickets. So that is telling in itself. But PFL, I'm sure he'll have a lot of success over there nonetheless. And moving on, though, Meat Boy, because the Mikhaev story is an interesting one for sure. But Nathaniel Wood fought against Daniel Pineda. You picked Pineda, and it ultimately ended up being a unanimous decision win for Nathaniel Wood. But the fight was a little bit closer than maybe the judges' scorecards indicated. There were two 10-8 rounds by two judges. One judge did give Pineda a round, however, but that fight was pretty close. You almost nailed that one. I want to focus more so on Gregory Rodriguez, though, versus CLD License, because I went 7-1 last week. My lone loss was picking Christian Leroy Duncan, and I should have known better because I've gotten burned on CLD before. I thought he would capitalize on the moment, and he was finally ready for the spotlight, but RoboCop put a quick halt to that, and it was a beautiful, dominant performance from RoboCop. What do you make out of Gregory Rodriguez? Because the dude's only 31 years old. He might look a little bit older and wears a lot of damage with that scar tissue he has, but this dude is getting better and better, and as far as well-roundedness is concerned, I mean, he's on the short list of one of the most well-rounded guys in the division. So what did you make of RoboCop? You picked him to win, so nice job there. Is he future champ?
Yeah, RoboCop is an absolute stud. I mean, the dude is one of the highest level grapplers and jiu-jitsu practitioners, but yet he just goes out there and stands up and bangs. There's never been a dull RoboCop fight I've ever seen, and ever since he has unleashed the third eye a couple fights ago, he's just been on an absolute tear. And maybe, at the time, I just didn't think he could ever be champ, but after this last performance, maybe he could be. I mean, he is so big, he's so dominant, he's so good all around. I really don't know how anyone's going to put this guy out. I mean, I think he gets hit a little too much, I will say. His defense needs to level up to get to that championship level, because the championship level is just insane right now. So, I don't know. I think he's definitely a top fiver. Champ, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see for sure, because he definitely is hittable, right? I mean, Bruno Ferreira slept him easy light work with a pretty stiff jab. So the fact that sometimes if you connect on that RoboCop button, he can go down and malfunction is a little bit concerning, but the dude is getting better and better. I would love to see him against our boy Body Bags, but who knows what's next for RoboCop. Transitioning though, Meat Boy, Arnold Allen versus Giga. A competitive fight, but one that Arnold definitely controlled and I don't want to say was dominant in, but he clearly won the fight, clearly reminded everyone that he still is at that top 5 level. Do you think Arnold Allen is a champ by the end of next year, and is Giga done?
Yeah, Arnold Allen looked pretty darn good, and I don't know, Giga definitely might be done, to be honest. He might have peaked. The sauce is out of the bag. He might not be as good as we all once thought. The Giga kick, it was kind of like, the ultimate move. Everyone expected it, and it just doesn't really work anymore. So he's either got to really level up and change his game plan, or I think the move is he might be done at this division, but I think if he moves up a division, I think he'll have a lot better success. He is so tall, he's so big. Add on a couple pounds, I think he'd do really good there at 155. But 145, I just don't know. I think he's cut too much weight. He's not looking sharp. He's not as durable as we would hope. I don't know. I just the future of him being top 3, maybe champ, it's definitely out of the bag at this point in my opinion. But he's still always going to be a fun fight to watch, I would say.
Yeah, I buy that. I wonder what he would look like at 155, or if he's one of those kind of tweener guys like Kevin Lee, where like maybe he's too big for 145 but too small for 55. I don't know. I mean, I just think of like what would Giga versus Armin Sarukian or versus Gamer Gamrot or even versus like Drew Dober look like. I don't know if he'd even have success there. So you wonder what's next for Giga. I hope he has another chapter at 55. I'm down to watch that for sure. But good stuff from Arnold Allen. A great rebound for him. Talk about great performances from local guys, though. I mean, Paddy Pimblett essentially stole the show, and we know Paddy to be a dude who will always dominate the headlines, dominate the press conferences, dominate the mic work, essentially. But he essentially stole the show inside the octagon as well with his performance, because nobody submits Bobby Green. He finished Bobby Green faster than Islam finished Bobby Green, which is kind of a crazy stat to say, but what did you make of Bobby Green kind of tripping, falling into a takedown, getting his neck snatched, and then just the high-level sorcery that Paddy Pimblett, a.k.a. the Sorcerer, was able to impose on Bobby Green? Like, what did you make of Paddy's performance?
Yeah, hey, I gotta give credit where credit is due, and Bobby had some absolute slick jujitsu, movements there, hops on there, transitions to there, and boom, submission, tap, go to sleep with an arm little tear. Bobby Green's arm looked absolutely mangled. He could not lift it up. He was doing everything with his left. He just left it dangling. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. But I will say it was weird. It was like Bobby Green didn't know what to do. I think Bobby Green was scared of the takedowns and he couldn't reach him, so he just didn't know what to do. And then I don't know, a part of me goes tinfoil hat on this one. And when was the last time anyone has ever seen Bobby Green initiate a takedown? Don't hold your breath, because I couldn't think of last time it happened. It seems a little sus. Seems super random. Bobby Green's not known for it. I don't know. But Paddy did his job. That's for sure.
No, I don't blame you. It's definitely been forever. I can't even think of a time when Bobby ever shot a takedown. When you run back the clip, though, it did look like he kind of tripped and like fell into it. So like, I almost wonder if his initial goal was to shoot, or if he just suddenly found himself in that position and decided to grab his waist. It was definitely a weird one for sure. But yeah, you don't see Bobby Green shooting takedowns too often. I have seen some people saying that Paddy was doing great on the feet, though, and perhaps if the argument is that Bobby did in fact with intention shoot a takedown, perhaps it's because he didn't like what he was seeing on the feet against Paddy Pimblett, who was a little bit longer, maybe was controlling distance and a little bit faster than what Bobby anticipated. So maybe that's what forced the shoot, if it was an intentional shoot. But definitely a strange one for sure. But nonetheless, a beautiful performance and a beautiful win from Paddy Pimblett. And you got to respect, he called out Renato Moicano. So it's not like, I mean, some have argued that his path to this position was made with a lot of cans, and I think that there is some teeth to that argument, but you got to respect Paddy not calling out any cans and going straight for Renato Moicano, which is a huge levels test. We love Renato Moicano and think that would be an amazing fight. I like Paddy's rationale too. He basically said, I want to fight Moicano because the buildup would be funny. And what a brilliant approach to that fight, because sometimes it is that simple when you're doing matchmaking. Paddy versus Renato Moicano would be hilarious in the buildup. So very excited to see what's next for Paddy. Let's keep going though, Meat Boy, because we're almost on our way to this week's picks. Tom Aspinall, 60 seconds, under 60-second banger, cashes against Curtis Razor Blades. He wrote the ship. He got his one loss back, essentially, if you want to consider that first Blades contest a legitimate loss for Aspinall. So what do you make of Tom Aspinall? And if he fought John Jones tomorrow, would you take Tom Aspinall?
Oh man, that's so tough. I'm so torn, because it's like Jones is the GOAT. I mean, everyone thought Cyril gone, and look what Jones did. And I had John on that one, and this one I'm definitely conflicting on. I just don't know if John has this one. Tom Aspinall is an absolute savage, absolute lunatic, dude. So fast, so strong, so big, hits like an absolute tank. The only thing I do wonder is Jones's experience. Like, I feel like Jones has had to have come across something similar in his past, that he just has so much experience. He truly is a fight IQ genius. You can't really deny it at this point. But the question is it peak Jones or is it washed up Jones? A washed up Jones, sleeping Jones, Tom Aspinall's going to run right through him. If Jones shows up, I think Jones might pick him apart, put that presence of I am the king here, and I think Tom might crumble. It's really 50-50. I don't know what's going to happen, but I pray that that fight happens sooner than later, just because I worry for Jones's age and time catching up to him.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm sort of coming from the perspective that I don't think we're ever going to see the fight. I feel like whoever wins the heavyweight strap through in this alleged fight between Stipe and John, allegedly in November, I think they're probably just going to retire because why would you take your belt into a contest with Tom Aspinall? I mean, you got to respect the competitive fire that both guy has, and I think that would be the best argument for John Jones committing to fight against Tom Aspinall. Like, he's such a competitor. He sees people like us saying that Tom Aspinall might be able to beat him, and perhaps that's enough to motivate him to show everyone that he is truly the GOAT. This is just Cyril Gone 2.0, like you said, but I don't know, something within me. It seems like John knows that this is a different beast. I mean, yes, we all bought into the Cyril Gone hype, but in hindsight, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but that's a one-dimensional fighter and a tailor-made matchup for John Jones. You can't just go in against Tom Aspinall, YOLO take him down with ease, and submit him light work. It's like the dude is as lethal on the feet as he is on the ground. So it's like, who's ever going to beat this guy? How could John even do it? I personally think if they fought tomorrow, I'm taking Tom all day. I think that's a lock, but it's interesting for sure. And like you, I hope we get to see that match because if John Jones comes through and beats Tom Aspinall, then it's basically impossible to say he's not the GOAT anyways right now. But if he did that, then I think arguments for anyone else would simply be irrational and silly. But nonetheless, me boy, lastly, Bilal Muhammad, my absolute boy, got it done versus Leon Edwards. I predicted that he would win either 4 rounds or 3 rounds, and he was 49-46 on 2 judges and 48-47 on the third. I was all over that one, Meat Boy. I feel like I was kind of on an island picking Bilal, sticking my neck out there for my boy, the bully. What did you make of Bilal's performance? Did you think that the 4-1 scorecards were accurate? And do you think Leon deserves a rematch?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been. I mean, I've probably been wrong pretty bad on a lot of takes. That one was pretty bad. I thought Leon Scott was going to absolutely decimate him, probably knock him out for a second round, to be honest. And it was just a ragdoll from beginning to end. Bilal absolutely showed up in Leon's home turf too. That's the even more impressive part. The one thing I will say, very interesting. I haven't seen the interviews. I'll have to look into if there has been any questions on it, but first round, Leon Scott got absolutely, head bopped, destroyed, he got matted multiple times. And then Leon Scott goes to his coach, first thing, I can't breathe. I don't know why you couldn't breathe. This is your hometown, dude. Like, did you not prepare? Was it 4 a.m.? Like, what was the excuse? Nothing but class from Leon. He didn't make an excuse. He said Bilal was the better guy. He's the champ. Congrats, whatever. Always class from that guy, even though a lot of people think he's kind of lame. But, man, if Bilal fights the way he just fought Leon Scott, I just don't really know anyone in that division that maybe could beat him. The only X factor is going to be Shavkat, maybe Ian Gary, but I just got to imagine that Bilal is going to ragdoll at least one of them, if not Shavkat also. But man, very, very curious to see what the UFC does for him for his first UFC fight. That was just one of the most impressive, dominance for a title fight I've seen in a long time. It felt very Khabib-ish, whereas think about Usman. Usman is the GOAT of 170, ragdolled Leon Scott first fight, then the headshot. Second fight, Leon Scott absolutely destroyed him, made the perfect adjustments, and then Leon just couldn't grapple. He had that one good round where he did out-grapple and take the back, but he didn't do anything from it until there was 30 seconds left in the 5th round and split his wig up and the blood started gushing. Like, where was that the first 4 rounds? So I'm not too sure if, everyone has their bad days, maybe some bad, seafood or something. But I don't think a rematch makes sense unless there's really nothing else, which that division, low-key, it's going to be hard to figure out a match to sell for Bilal. I'm not going to lie, because everyone's been kind of cleaned up. So either they're bringing, Usman or Hamzat, or they have Shavkat fight, or maybe they do rematch. I don't know, but I don't think he really deserves it. But how the lineup is looking, it wouldn't surprise me also that maybe this is the only option for them.
Yeah, great points. Because it's like who really does stick out? Who would be the next title shot? I mean, I would love to see Shavkat, like you said. I don't know if he's still dealing with that hand issue or not, but Shavkat versus Bilal would be fun. I think Bilal versus Ian Gary would be interesting as well. But something tells me that we're going to probably see maybe Ian Gary fight Shavkat, and then the winner of that perhaps gets the title fight. Or like you said, I mean, Usman has been pretty vocal these past 48 hours. He's chomping at the bit. He basically thinks that this is his perfect opportunity to reclaim his title, right? Because there's the 2 losses to Leon. The trilogy was essentially settled. That story was written, but Bilal Muhammad now is looking for a dance partner, and good on Usman for reinserting himself in the conversation because it's pretty wide open, right? So you never know what is next. We're also kind of just either, I mean, who knows what's going on with Hamza? And I guess in my head, I sort of think of Hamza more as a 185er now. I wonder if he's ever going to fight back at 170, especially with all the recent health issues he's having. So I kind of take him out of the picture. And then I think, I mean, on paper, it obviously makes 0 sense, but what would be the funniest build-up? Probably Bilal Muhammad versus Colby Covington. So, I mean, you never know. The UFC is always down to put on a clown show here and there. So if they somehow give Colby his 18th straight title shot despite 17 title fight losses, that would be funny as well. So good on my boy Bilal Muhammad nonetheless. He did what he said he was going to do. He did what I said he was going to do, and very stoked for the homie, obviously. So we talked a lot about 304 me, boy. You ready to jump into UFC on ABC 7 from the United Arab Emirates?
Yep, let's get it started with the MEATLOCK.
Yeah, you see the text. Swap us through. It's your boy, Deiveison Figueiredo, the 23-3-1 favorite in this one. He's minus 175. He's the former UFC flyweight champion, and now he is a surging bantamweight. And the dude has been looking dominant since making that transition in December of last year. And he debuted against Rob Font. It was a beautiful, methodical, dominant decision for him. And then fought about 5 months later against Cody Garbrandt, and he finished in easy light work in the second round. I believe they were the first fight of the night on UFC 300, which again just touches back to how stacked that card was. But he's a minus 175 favorite in this one against Chito Vera, who has dropped 2 of his last 3. He's 23-9-1 and is a plus 145 dog. He last fought for the bantamweight title strap, and he got absolutely demolished by Sean O'Malley. And you talked about you having some bad takes, perhaps with Leon versus Bilal. One of my equivalents would be Cheeto over Sean O'Malley. I thought that Cheeto had his number. I thought he was the Francis Ngannou to Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall, but turned out to not be that, and Sean O'Malley absolutely decimated him. So we think that with that title fight loss went the soul of Cheeto Vera, and Figgy is on another championship ascension, albeit in a different division this time. So what do you like about the MEATLOCK? We know that Figgy is your boy. You have multiple one-of-ones, some of the dopest Figgy cards in the card game, but how do you like him to get this one done over Cheeto Vera?
Yeah, I mean, Figgy is the GOAT. I mean, I don't want to say I'm the #1 Figgy collector, but I might as well be. I have multiple one-of-ones. I have way too many Figgy cards. But, I mean, do you blame me? He is the GOAT. Look what he's been doing. He's coming for that title. Watch out, Sugar Sean Figueiredo's in town. And this is going to be a long night, I think, for Cheeto. I think Cheeto might even get snuffed, might even get submitted. I don't know. Figgy's been on one. He's been peaking ever since he's not taking that crazy weight cut. He just looks so sharp and dialed, like a new Figueiredo has been born. So love to see it. Can't wait for this one. And this one's just another lock.
Yeah, it should be another lock. Nonetheless, Tapology is in agreement. They're rolling overwhelmingly with Figgy. He's garnering 80% of the backers. Only 20% is rolling with Cheeto Vera. It's basically beige on both sides, so the Tapology community thinks that this fight is going the distance. Are you at all surprised that there aren't a lot of Figgy finish backers, or is that just sort of a testament to the toughness and durability of Cheeto Vera as opposed to the lack of finishing ability for Figgy? Because, I mean, that YOLO knee that Sean O'Malley landed flush on Cheeto's face somehow didn't even put him out. It almost seems like the guy can't be knocked out, so maybe submission is the only pathway for a finish. But are you at all surprised that everyone is going decision for Figgy, or does that make sense just based on how durable Cheeto Vera is?
Man, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Figgy gets a finish, but Cheeto has been proven time and time again that he is so dang durable. But when will it crack? This could be the one. He's been taking some absolute insane damage. Most likely it goes decision, just because of the durability. But if it is that time and that armor has cracked, Figgy's gonna capitalize and absolutely put him in the shadow realm.
Yeah, and for about the 18.7% of backers going with a Figgy finish, it's majority copper, so they do think a sub is more likely than a TKO, but you never know. There could be a crack in the Cheeto armor for sure. So officially, I'm going to go Figgy by decision. It's a meatlock, though, simple moneyline meatlock. We're keeping it simple, not going too meatlock and heavy, just throwing down an easy 175. It's going to net 100, get us our 103rd meatlock, keep the meatlock streak going, and no better way than for a Figgy meatlock to start the breakdowns. And we're obviously starting with the meatlock. We always do, but this fight is third from the top. So no longer is Figgy the curtain jerker. They got him near the top. So this could be a championship opportunity if he gets a formidable finish in this one. So any last thoughts on the meatlock?
No, this is an absolute lock. Make sure smash that meat and subscribe.
Yeah, smash subscribe and smash us over, Meat Boy. Smash the burger because Guram Gutataladze, our boy, is back to fight against Jordan Vucinic. And originally this was supposed to be a fight against Kareem Al-Sweaty, who is a truly bad fighter from the Contender Series and should have been a Guram lock, but now he's fighting Vooch, who is 13-2. He's the surging debutant on a 4-fight win streak and a guy who has won 4 straight fights all by submission, and some of them in the first round, especially most recently against Adrian Keepa. First round guillotine choke. So Vooch on short notice at plus 170 is pretty interesting, taking on our boy Guram, who has probably one of the more confusing UFC records. I mean, this guy technically is 1-2 in the UFC. He's lost 2 straight, and his one win is against Gamer Gamrot, a guy who hasn't lost to anyone else essentially besides Guram. So it's fascinating to see a dude who's 1-2 riding a fat L streak and only an impressive win now has a minus 205 favorite against the debutant Vooch. So is Guram as good as we've been making him out to be? I mean, we know he trains with Hamzat. We know he beat Gamer Gamrot, but are we pumping him too hard? Is the 2-fight L streak more indicative of who Guram Gutataladze is, or were those just bad beats against Demir, bad beats against Elvis, and against this debutant, he's going to return to his winning ways?
Yeah, I think those were bad beats. You know, it was a split decision versus Demir. Demir is no joke, but Elvis Brenner, he was smoking him the whole time until he gassed out, and Elvis just has a heart of a lion. But this kind of just seems like a gimme. Like, hey, we need to get Guram back in the win column. We're gonna bring this new guy. He's got a pretty solid record. He only loses the decision, so I imagine that this is probably gonna go decision, but I don't know. Guram's kind of a savage, so this guy making his debut, he could, tinkle in his pants and go, "Oh my gosh, it's the UFC, the lights, camera, action," and then crumble to the Guram power. This is gonna be very interesting. I'm excited, but I gotta take Guram on this one.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. This does seem like a winnable return fight for the Georgian Viking, and the main reason I think that is because his original opponent, Al Sweaty, that guy was going to get smoked by Guram, and so the original matchmaking definitely suggests they were trying to get Guram back on track. So I gotta imagine Vucinic as the replacement. His nickname is the Pandemic. I think that he is also fresh meat for Guram. So I'm gonna roll with you. I'll take Guram. I think he might get a finish in this one though, Meat Boy, because I gotta imagine he's coming out here angry. He's coming out here trying to get a finish because I mean the 2 fights, his 2 first fights, right? Both close split decisions. Some people thought he lost to Gamer Gamrot. Some people thought he beat Demir, but the judges were split on those verdicts ultimately. And then most recently, like you said, he got finished by Elvis Brenner, but he was dominating that fight the entire way. He kind of just gassed out, and the heart of a lion, as you described from Brenner, really was highlighted in that 3rd round. And Elvis got the finish ultimately, but I think that Guram's coming in here, having fought the decisions, having got finished, now especially looking to get a finish, especially over a debutant can like Jordan. So I like Guram to get a finish in this one. Tapology overwhelmingly is rolling with Georgian Vikings, 64% going with Guram, 36% going with Vooch, and one of the few times we've ever seen 100% of backers going in one direction. Basically, if you're picking the Pandemic, all 100% of the 36% is copper for the submission. So it's sub or bust from Tapology. About 38% is going Guram by KO, though. So do you see any life where Guram maybe picks up his first finish?
Yeah, I could definitely see it. Especially if this guy's going for sub. I mean, there's no way you're gonna submit Hamzat's
Right?
training partner. Guram is no joke when it comes to the grappling. So if it goes to the grappling, I can see the fresh off the bat newcomer go for a bunch, maybe even look kind of good on the ground, but eventually gas out, and then Guram's gonna finish via KO or maybe even submits him himself.
Yeah, love that. Definitely inspect the Guram finish numbers because he might historically be a decision machine, but sometimes the guys are due, and it's about finding them capitalizing before they do. So let's see how Guram does. I like him by finish. Any last thoughts on Guram versus Can?
No, fun fight nonetheless. Can't wait to see Guram back in action.
Yeah, me too. It's good that he's back. I hope the fight stays intact between now and Saturday. But another fight I'm excited for this week, it's a light heavyweight scrap. It's Atomic Alonzo Menafield as a plus 180 dog, taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Sometimes we've referred to him as Azamit Murlakanov, and the guy is 13-0. He's a minus 218 favorite, and the last time we saw him was over a year ago, and it was against Dustin Jacoby, a fight he really performed well in and got a unanimous decision. But it's been a little while since we've seen him. The fights before the Jacoby contest, he got impressive finishes against Tefan and Chukwi, against Devin the Brown Bear Clark, and that was easy light work and brutal. So there's been a lot of good stuff from Murlakanov. The activity, however, hasn't been all there, and he's taken on a guy who you can criticize some of his L's, but he's very active. You can't criticize his activity. Atomic Alonzo Menafield, who was so active that the last time he fought, I believe we meatlocked our boy Carlos Olberg, the Black Jag, and that was easy light work. A 12-second banger for our boy, the Black Jag, and Menafield went to sleep, but he's making a quick return. In fact, it's only been about 2.5 months, so interesting call there after getting KO'd stiff. At plus 180 and making such a quick return, do you like him in this one against Azamit Murlakanov, or does this seem just like another meatlock for Murlock?
Yeah, no, this should be a good fight, but I think it is another meatlock for a Murlock.
What do you like about it? How do you think he gets this one done if he is going to take out Atomic Alonzo? Because I mean, you know the game plan for Alonzo Menafield. He's coming out here to swing those atomic meat bombs. Shout out to Caltabiano's corner, and he's going to come in with. I mean, the last time we saw him, it was reckless intent. He threw caution to the wind, and he got slept in 12 seconds. So, would you anticipate a more measured approach in this fight from Atomic Alonzo? Maybe he even tries to initiate some of the grappling in this one. If you're taking Murlock, how do you think he gets this one done over Atomic Alonzo? What does this fight look like?
Yeah, Menafield, he's got absolute bombs in those fists, but yeah, him getting KO'd in the first round just is not a good look, especially when he's going versus an absolute killer named the Professional. So I think the Professional probably KOs him first or second round. I think he's too much of a tacticianer. Alonzo is very sloppy, but he's a strong lad. He could get it done, but I think Azatman is going to send him to the Shadow Realm, teach him that you need to level up on your technique and your patience, and I think it's going to be a first round KO, to be honest.
He's similar to Black Jag, different fighter, same outcome. And I don't blame you because Azamat is a proven finisher. I mean, we talked about the impressive finishes he has in the UFC. To get into the UFC, he smoked Matthias Scheffel in Contender Series. Scheffel's having a lot of success over in PFL. And then pre-UFC, he slept Andre Muniz in 50 seconds. So Azamat has some beautiful finishes. Andre Muniz is more of a 185er these days, but still a tough guy and a great win that's aging nicely. So you like Azamat to continue his finishing ways in this one. Tapology overwhelmingly is rolling with the Professional, 84%, and Majority Brown, they think that Menafield is getting slept as well. 16% though is rolling with Atomic Alonzo, and those backing Menafield primarily think that the Atomic Alonzo meat bombs will be the ones that put him away, but I'm with you, meat boy. I'll take Murlakanov. I can see this fight being kind of close though, and I honestly see Menafield having some success early. I think it's going to be a slower, more measured approach, and he starts strong. Murzakanov then perhaps mixes it up and maybe initiates some clinch and just really beats him in an MMA game versus just a straight-up stand-up affair. but I like Murzakanov ultimately to win the last 2 rounds. And I see this fight going the distance, but being close, competitive, and actually no one getting a finish. So I'm kind of fading those who are going with the finish in this one. But any last thoughts on Murzakanov by Menifield? I'll take Murlock by decision.
No, this is a fun fight, great fight. This is going to be a slobber knocker of some absolute big boys, so this is one you don't want to miss.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know in the comments. Are you shilling for Atomic Alonso or taking Murlock to stay undefeated? But swap us through, Meat Boy, because a guy we briefly discussed earlier with a win over Guram is fighting on the same card now against Joel Alvarez, aka El Fenomenano, who is 20-3 overall, 5-2 in the UFC, and the odds makers are still backing Joel Alvarez as a decent minus 180 favorite against Elvis Brenner, who is 3-1, keeps cashing as a dog, and he just lost his first UFC fight. It was against Meektebek Oralbai, and Meektebek Oralbai might be a future champ. The Oral Goat is really a quite good fighter, and Elvis put up a good fight, a good contest, but ultimately was on the short end of the stick. But the odds makers have him at plus 150, and despite showcasing what you described as a heart of a lion and going against an opponent in Joel Alvarez, who I don't want to say we've seen him quit before, but we've seen him really get dominated, i.e. Arman Sarukian. Are you at all surprised by the odds? And if so, do you like Elvis Brenner as a dog lock?
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see Elvis Brenner as a dog because he just had an amazing performance versus Guram, and I would pick Guram over Yoel Alvarez. So Yoel was a big boy, but yeah, I could see a very similar outcome with Sarukian, but I don't know. I'm very curious to see where this fight goes. I think I'm gonna take Elvis on this. I like him as a dog lock. I like him with those juicy odds. Stylistically, this is pretty nice, and I'm just surprised to see the odds being this big of a difference too.
Yeah, it started as a near pick'em, but the early action has really gone on Joel Alvarez, so we'll see if that narrows closer to fight time. But you mentioned the stylistic advantages that you anticipate Elvis Brenner having. Where do you like him in this one against Joel Alvarez? Because one thing we know about Joel Alvarez is the dude is absolutely massive, right? He's 6'3", has a 77-inch reach, and is a dude who I don't know how the guy makes 155, but Elvis Brenner, meanwhile, is a guy we've seen fight in lower divisions. He looks like a sort of Steve Garcia style lightweight where he probably walks around close to the fighting weight of 156 pounds, and he's going to be at a 5-inch reach disadvantage and is 5 inches shorter. So stylistically, what do you like about Elvis's game over Joel Alvarez, who will be the way bigger guy?
Yeah, no, man, it's very tough. It's gonna be a very close fight, but I think Elvis has kind of won me over with that heart of his when he fought Guram. I could see even a similar fight. Maybe Yoel is doing good, beating him, and then Booty Doot gets smoked by Elvis because Elvis does not quit.
Yeah, and that's one thing, right? It's like Elvis there might not be so many intangibles that you can point to and like so many stylistic advantages. Like sometimes fights just come down to heart, hustle, and muscle. Who wants it more? And Elvis is a guy who always seemingly wants it more than his opponent. So maybe his ability to weather an early storm could discourage Joel Alvarez as the fight prolongs, and maybe Elvis himself picks up a late finish. I'm going to go with Joel Alvarez, but I like where your head's at. I think that Elvis is way in this fight. I think that it probably is going to close closer to a pick'em because Elvis is a straight up dog, and anytime you got a dog, sometimes they can be a dog lock, like you said. So I'll take Joel Alvarez. I'll say I'm not even going to say whether it's decision, KO, or submission because I can see this fight going many ways. I'll just pick Joel Alvarez. Method undetermined. If you're going Elvis, do you like him to finish El Fenomenano?
Yeah, I do like him finishing Yoel Alvarez. That's typically how Elvis rolls, but I don't know. I think this is going to be an absolute slobber knocker, a bloodbath. This should be a close fight, and I doubt either one's going to submit each other. Both these guys are high-level grapplers, so someone's got to get finished. It would surprise me if this goes decision. I think if someone's getting knocked out, I doubt a submission's going to happen. A decision would really blow my mind, to be honest.
Yeah, it should be fun. Let us know how you're taking this fight to go down. Is Elvis going to pick up a finish? Is Phenomenal going to get it done? You rolling with Brenner, or is Joel Alvarez the devil in disguise? Let us know for sure. But swap us through though, Meat Boy. We got a couple to go. Another interesting fight. Mackenzie Dern makes her return against Lupi Godinez, who just lost to Verna Jindihoba, but prior to that was on a beautiful 4-fight win streak. And we know how good Verna is. She might be the next champ, or at a minimum, next title challenger. But she's taking on Mackenzie Dern, who has lost 2 straight. She's lost 3 of 4. Her one win, though, was against Angela Hill in a fight she absolutely dominated, never looked better, got fight of the night. And Angela Hill, we know, is a woman who, if she's not winning, she's losing very, very close contests, yet got absolutely dominated across 5 rounds, mind you, by Mackenzie Dern. And she looked truly amazing in that fight, but the 2 times we've seen her since, I don't know if she's training with someone new or they totally implemented a new fight strategy, but she's seemingly going out there swinging Ronda Rousey YOLO punches that only meet air, and it's been a lot of not beautiful performances from Mackenzie Dern recently. So in this one, she's a slight favorite. It's basically a pick 'em against Lupi Godinez, but Lupi's good, and her only recent loss is to Verno, who might be next champ. So do you like Lupi to cash as a potential dog, or is this the opponent Mackenzie Dern needs to get back on track?
Yeah, this is definitely not an easy fight, not a layup. The UFC, hey, props to Mackenzie Dern. She does not get any cans in her division, for at least the level that she's at. She's fighting Jessica Andrade, Jan, Lemos, and this is definitely a step down in level, but this is no joke. Lupita is definitely a high-level fighter. She's been fighting really good recently. I mean, Tabitha Ricci, Ducat, Cynthia Calvillo, great wins. I don't know. I gotta go with my girl Dern. I think Dern is just gonna be maybe a little too much for her, and I think Lupita is gonna get her first submission loss from Mackenzie, actually.
I'm curious what this fight looks like on the ground. I mean, obviously, we know Mackenzie Dern has the advantage against 99.9% of women when in the grappling department, but it'll be interesting to see how Lupi fares and if she can be defensively sound enough to survive and get it back to the feet. But I'm also curious if, I mean, maybe Lupi's able to stuff the takedowns and keep this fight standing up. And when on the feet, I gotta imagine she'd be encouraged when she saw Mackenzie Dern stand up in that last competition, because I don't know if she was just a little bit punch drunk in that fight and threw caution to the wind, game plan went out the window, and that's what the end result was, or if that was an intentional game plan and those are her best punches. But if this fight does stay on the feet, Meat Boy, are you at all concerned that Mackenzie Dern will be swinging YOLOs that are ending up empty, or do you see Mackenzie Dern rediscovering that stand-up sauce that she just had against Angela Hill, but now it's suddenly gone?
Yeah, I don't know. If Mackenzie Dern just tries to stand up and bang, she's probably going to lose. She needs to take this to the ground. She needs to use her bread and butter, her grappling. I hope that's what she does, but if she tries to do loopy-doopy swinging punches, probably Godinez smokes her. I got to imagine that she's got a better stand-up, but I don't know. Hopefully, Dern shows us what she's improved on and that she has a better, smarter game plan instead of just totally YOLOing it, doing whatever, and then getting absolutely destroyed, because I would hate to see it.
Yeah, you would hate to see it if she is just swinging YOLOs. If she does get loopy against loopy, I think she will end up loopy, and perhaps she's wounded and woozy out there after eating a little bit too many punches from the Lobo Gym MMA fighter Loopy, who we know Lobo Gym, if you're training there, all killers, a lot of champs as well. So Tapology is with you. They're taking Dern 61%, majority beige. They think the decision is most likely. 39% though going with Loopy, all of the beige for her as well. So they think this fight goes the distance. I'm taking Loopy, Meat Boy. I gotta wait and see I gotta see a good version of Mackenzie Dern since those last 2 contests before I am bullish at all to take her as a favorite, because I don't know what's going on with Mackenzie Dern. I agree with you. I think this is a step back levels wise, and this should be on paper a winnable fight for Mackenzie Dern, but I think it's a winnable fight for a peak Mackenzie Dern. It might not be a winnable fight for a peaked Mackenzie Dern, and if she's peaked, it might be bad news. So I'm taking Lupi Godinez. I'll go by decision as well. If you're taking Dern, do you like decision or sub?
I do like sub. Decision is definitely, that means probably more on the feet. If it goes to the ground, she should get the sub pretty easy early and often. But yeah, I would be very surprised if she doesn't get this sub.
Yeah, we'll see, and it'd be good for her because I'm kind of down her a little bit. But if she comes through and picks up another patented sub, then I'll be back on board for sure because it's you love to ride with Mackenzie Dern, obviously. Pop us through the Meat Boy because Michael Chiesa is a -600 favorite, and that's not a sentence I thought would ever be uttered in good faith in 2024, but it is a fact nonetheless. And when you see who is across, it's Tony Ferguson, and I don't want to say that makes sense because -600 for Michael Chiesa, the Maverick, seems insane, but Tony Ferguson has lost 7 straight fights. He's been non-competitive in all of them. There's nothing positive that you can glean from any Tony Ferguson fight ever since Justin Gaethje took a couple decades off of his career with that performance in 2020. The arena was empty, every punch was loud, and Tony was never the same afterwards. So he's plus 440. He's still Tony Ferguson. He's still a legend. You don't want to besmirch El Kukui too much, but from a practical fight analysis standpoint, it hasn't been good. UFC keeps him around, though, as a name on the bill and as someone who can still plant people in seats. So do you like Michael Chiesa at -600? That just seems like a crazy question in itself. What are your thoughts on this fight, Meepo?
Yeah, crazy odds. This is this is a crazy fight because I'm just gonna be honest. Like Michael Chiesa, the only way he's winning is by decision. There's no way he's gonna submit Tony Ferguson. Michael Chiesa's never knocked out anyone, which blows my mind. Being in the UFC, you've never gotten 1 KO. So Tony's got great advantage because he's good at striking and he's good at grappling. The only thing I worry is, will Michael Chiesa just wrestle and tire him out and just slowly beat him and get the grimy decision? Most likely. But that being said, these odds are just too juicy. Where this is the Tony El Kukui revive, and I gotta pick Tony Ferguson on this one. I honestly think Tony's gonna smoke Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa has been sipping too many Trulies behind the desk, while Tony Ferguson is getting wild in the gym every day, hanging out with Goggins, getting into a different realm in the mental state. And after 7 L's, you have to get a W. So he is due for one. It's his 40th. He's 40 years old, and this is going to be his final win and his retirement fight. But Michael Chiesa is probably going back to the stands, back to the behind the desk, and never fight again also. So I feel like this is a double retirement fight because both these guys are pretty washed. But I do like seeing that the last 2 submission losses in his last 3 fights are both Barbeau chokes, which Tony Ferguson is known to have a nasty submission game. So this should be easy light work for Tony, 40-year-old Ferguson.
Yeah, great stuff. A lot to unpack there, and you touched on some of Chiesa's submission losses. It's interesting because Chiesa's a great grappler, but sometimes will go out there and get submitted himself, and against guys you wouldn't think would submit him, right? I would always think back to Kevin Lee, and that was a controversial one, but Kevin Lee has a first-round submission over Michael Chiesa, so fascinating stuff there. You mentioned Tony Ferguson having 7 straight L's, and by simple math, it would only make sense that an 8th one would not happen, and a victory instead would come Tony's way. Completely see where your head is there, and I love how you mentioned a double retirement fight because I sure hope that regardless of the outcome in this fight, both guys hang them up. I hope they get a raucous pop from the crowd and get the respect that they're due, Tony specifically, but would love to see both these guys hang it up for sure. Don't know if I'm picking Tony Ferguson, though, Meat Boy, and Tapology overwhelmingly is for the Maverick, but 25%, about a quarter, is rolling with Tony Ferguson. I think you're going to be only prediction guy in this YouTube sphere of ours that will stick their neck out and pick Tony Ferguson openly. So I like the call. If you're taking El Kukui, beyond just the simple math factor and an 8th loss would make 0 sense, what practically do you like about Ferguson's game over Chiesa? And is it just that submission or bust for you?
Yeah, I feel like both these guys are washed. Honestly, it's the odds. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm a full degen, and these odds are too juicy to not hammer El Kukui. This is a winnable fight. This is not a Charles Oliveira. This is not a Islam Makhachev. This is not a Michael Chandler. This is Michael Chiesa. He's been sitting back behind the desk, writing with his pen and paper while Tony's in the gym, and I just feel like Tony's one of those guys that he does not quit until he gets a win. So I don't know if the UFC is gonna somehow, make sure he loses so he keeps fighting for them, or if this is Tony's last fight after he gets this dub. I hope it is. I can't wait. Can't wait to see him get a dub and retire, hopefully.
Yeah, he's definitely a dude who refuses to quit until he wins, and it'll be interesting to see it'll be interesting to see how long he has that autonomy, I guess, in that decision. But I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't. We're talking about Chiesa and the fact he's a minus 600 favorite, but we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up some of Chiesa's recent history too. I mean, the guy's lost 3 straight, got submitted in 2 of them, both times in the first round, and the only fight he went the distance, he got dominated by Sean Brady, and we haven't seen Chiesa in over a year. So, like you said, he's been doing a lot of analyst work at the desk. He does a nice job, and I don't know though. I think there is some interesting juice, perhaps a juicy juice box juice boy for Tony Ferguson. But I'm going to take Chiesa at minus 600. There's obviously nothing there. I don't like Chiesa by finish. I don't like Chiesa by decision. I don't like Chiesa at all. But I'm going to take Michael Chiesa to win this fight somehow. But of course, I'm rooting for Tony. I hope he cashes for you at plus 440. And the Tony story ends with a solid last chapter, because all these losses have been kind of rough, to be honest with you. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, definitely been rough. Man, I feel bad for Tony, but I gotta root for him. These odds are just too crazy not to enjoy. But super pumped to see. Hopefully, to either win, lose, draw. I hope Tony retires. I hate to see, him 40 and just keep taking an 8th L and wanting to fight more. It's always sad to see when you see these fighters do this. Hopefully, he wins, goes out peacefully.
I agree 100%. At what point is enough enough? But let us know in the comments if you are rolling with meat. Are you taking Tony Ferguson, or does the Maverick cash for you at a minus 600 ticket, which is pretty crazy? But nonetheless, me boy, 2 to go. If you're still here, we know this is a long banger, so appreciate you rolling with us and catching us at this co-meet event. But it's a fun last-second addition to the card. There's been a lot of shakeup with this card, and it needed one more big fight. Insert Shara Bullet, Shara Magomedov, trying to keep his 13-0 undefeated record intact, despite having just fought about 5 weeks ago. And it was a performance of the night, finish over Antonio Broccoli. And Broccoli truly proved he did not belong in the same octagon, but it still took Shara Bullet almost 2.5 rounds to pick up a finish against the fish out of water Antonio. So I don't know what to glean from that most recent performance. And he's taking on my boy, Michal Oleksiejczuk, who plus 210. Yes, he's lost 3 of 4. He's lost 2 straight, and both times he was asleep on the canvas in the first 90 seconds. But historically, Michal is pretty nice. I mean, I loved that performance of the night. Victory against Chidi and Joe Kuwani. Performance of the night finish over Brundage. Smoked Smiling Sam Alvey. Check out the short in the description below. And some great wins against Bukowskis and Gamzamov before that. So we've seen from good stuff from Oleksiejczuk. We've seen him cash as a dog. And I don't want to say I've been underwhelmed by Shara Bullet so far, but for me, he hasn't yet lived up to the future champ hype I think he is arriving with. So at plus 210, any life for our boy Michal Oleksiejczuk, or is Shara Bullet going to go 14-0?
Yeah, I think Shara Bullet's going to go 14-0. UFC is doing everything in their power to have him avoid a grappler because, he fought Broccoli Boy, Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend, and it was a little sus on his grappling at times, but day notice makes sense why his opponent gassed. I honestly think Broccoli probably beats him if it was a full camp. That's what it seemed to me. Magomedov just really isn't too impressive, but UFC is these matchmakers that are there, they are geniuses. They know when the right time for the right opponent to build the right guy. 90% of the time I feel like They did it with Patty the Batty last week. I feel like this is another one. This is a perfect matchup for him. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Michelle ever go for a takedown. He's a KO artist. He's going to try to knock him out, but Magomedov definitely has good distance, good range, good output, good gas tank, so this is a good stylistic fight for him to win, I would say.
Yeah, good analysis. I like where your head is at for sure. And I do anticipate this fight being primarily a stand-up affair because you're right, Michal Oleksiejczuk is not a powerful grappler. He does like to go out there and stand and bang, and sometimes he does have some success. It's when he's getting taken down and controlled when he's really been dominated in those early contests. But we know Shara Bullet, I mean, you might get confused by the last name, but his grappling is a little bit sus. I mean, it definitely improved from his first contest against Broccoli Boy last fight because he did have some solid grappling, at least better than what he had previously. But I got to imagine he too is going to want to stand and bang with Oleksiejczuk as well. So if this fight stays on the feet, which we both anticipate it to be, any chance Oleksiejczuk sleeps Magomedov? Because we saw Oleksiejczuk versus Chidi Njokuani, who is another tall, rangy, sniping striker. And Shara, I mean, is a little bit taller. Will have a reach disadvantage, but I got to think stylistically is a sort of similar fighter to Chidi Njokuani, and Michal Oleksiejczuk slept him with ease. So any concern that that happens here, or do you think Shara Bullet's stand-up is that much better than Chidi's?
He does have absolute coconut bombs in those hands. That Polish power is no joke. I just think the range is what I worry for. I think Chidi does not have good depth perception. I don't think Chidi realized that he has 10 feet longer arms than Oleksiejczuk. I think Magomedov has a better distance gauging. He throws the kicks significantly more to keep the distance at. He's very active. Chidi just like kept letting Michel get in there, and so I gotta say, I think Magomedov understands the concept of keeping your opponent at distance where you can hit them, but they can't hit you. So he's going to use those kicks real nicely, kick him in the calves. Oleksiejczuk's kind of more of a boxer. I would say he throws less kicks than I would say Magomedov is going to throw. So this is going to be lots of kicks from Magomedov. Oleksiejczuk's going to get frustrated, and then it's probably going to be just a decision. Maybe not the most impressive, and then the hype will continue for all the Timmy casuals.
Yeah, great stuff, and we'll see if Magomedov can pick up another finish in this one. I mean, he did get that finish over Broccoli. It just took a little bit longer than we thought it would, so we'll see if he can keep the streak alive against Oleksiejczuk, but Tapology overwhelmingly is picking Shara Bullet. Majority Brown, though, they think 65% of the 78 is getting a Magomedov by KO pick, so will be interesting to see if that happens. 22% rolling with Hassar, basically all Brown. So they think Oleksiejczuk can only win by KO. It's taken everything within me to not pick Michal Oleksiejczuk. You know that's my boy. I'm a royalty, though. I like the points that you made about Magomedov, and specifically regarding the matchmaking, right? Like, we've seen this story a million times. When there's such a hyped-up prospect like Shara Bullet, there's going to be tailor-made matchups and winnable opportunities more so than perhaps other guys that they aren't trying to fast-track. So because of that context alone, I like Magomedov. Probably picks up a... Are we going to finish or decision for Shara on this one?
I think decision. I mean, he hasn't really proven to be able to finish a high-level fighter. I consider Oleksiejczuk a pretty high-level fighter. I just don't think he's going to finish him, but I think he will win from beginning to end. He did finish Broccoli Boy, but Broccoli Boy, that was his debut. That was like a 6-hour notice, and he was looking gassed before he even started the fight. So it was pretty embarrassing he didn't finish him in the first round, to be honest. But this will be a fun fight. If there is a finish, someone's getting knocked out, but I think this will be a decision.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's go Shara by decision. Let us know in the comments if he's picking up a finish or if I am fading my boy Michal Oleksiejczuk at the wrong time and you are rolling with Hassar. So swap us through, Meat Boy. Last one to go. One that I think is the juiciest, most interesting fight, both stylistically and from a Vegas perspective. It's Umar Nurmagomedov taking on the Sandman, Corey Sandhagen. And Sandhagen is a plus 240 dog, and Umar Nurmagomedov is a minus 298 favorite, and this one's fascinating to me. I mean, anytime you get the Nurmagomedov last name, that's always going to influence a lot of casuals to part with their money, but against Sandhagen, who has won 3 straight and keeps getting better and better and better. Does this scream juicy beef for a Sandhagen dog lock, or is Umar that good? He's going to remain undefeated, and it's just going to be bad news bears for the Sandman.
Yeah, man, those odds, it really is saying, bad news bears for the Sandman. But what I say to that is these dudes must have never been to the beach because the sand is amazing when you're swimming in the ocean. Sandman is going to absolutely decimate this hype train Umar. Umar really hasn't fought anyone that is Corey Sandhagen level. Corey's wrestling has absolutely improved on a catastrophic level after losing to the Funk. I would even argue that if they ran that back, I think Corey would knock out the Funk or at least dominate him from beginning to end. Corey really has been peaking recently, so unless Umar is that guy, which I feel like Dana White and the UFC matchmakers, they're like, hey, this is the fight. Let's see if Corey can really prove himself, because if Corey can finish Umar, he's going to finish Merab. So they're worried that Merab finishes or beats Sugar Sean, and Sugar Sean's grappling might not be there to beat Merab, but Corey's will be if he could beat Umar. I know that seems a little far-fetched, but that's just how I see it. These matchmakers are no joke. They want exciting fighters. They want a Corey Sandhagen as champion. They want a Talbot as champion. They want a Sugar Sean. So, and also, who doesn't want to see those 3 guys fight, right? So I think they're trying to get rid of these, lay on you, smother you, grind you out decision kings, and keep the exciting, fun guys going. This is a crazy fight. The odds are so disrespectful, and that's probably the main reason why. Umar is very good. He could get it done. If he just ragdolls Corey Sandhagen, I will be mind blown. But I think Corey is that guy to beat him.
Yeah, good stuff. Love Corey Sandhagen, and definitely to your point, an entertaining fighter. I mean, Peyton Talbot, Sugar Sean, Sandman, those guys are all of the same ilk as far as from a aesthetic perspective is for sure. All of those guys are very impressive. But a couple of things I do want to sort of discuss. You mentioned the level of competition that Umar has faced, and I think there are some good points to be made there and some relevant ones, because yes, he's 5-0 in the UFC, but if you inspect the wins, I mean, Sergey Morozov in his debut, that fight was way closer initially at least than people thought it would be. Ultimately got the second round finish, so great stuff, a great outcome, but a close fight. And then he fought against Brian Boom Kelleher, dominated him, but Brian Kelleher hasn't won a fight in 5 years. And after that, he beat Nate Manis, who, Google Nate Manis, he just got cut, basically. He didn't get his contract renewed, even though he was on a fat win streak. He was kind of a decision machine, and Umar beat him. Ioni Barcelos, who's 40, and then most recently another debutant, Beksat Almakan, on short notice, and Beksat had some moments in the distance. So I think you can sort of pinpoint some of Umar's performances and wonder how good he really is. However, he's pretty entertaining too. I mean, he does have the Nurmagomedov fight style, but he does get finishes. I mean, he has 5 UFC wins. 3 of them he did pick up finish, and the performance of the night KO against Ioni was impressive, just because I think he showcased a little bit more of his stand-up than he had in previous fights, and that body kick was Giga style, absolutely gnarly. So in this fight against Corey Sandhagen, I do love the stylistic advantages that Sandhagen's going to have on the feet with the range, with the strikes. But do you expect Umar to offer any sort of resistance given his stand-up improvements he's made recently, or is he going full Merab style and getting this fight to the mat as quickly as he can?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he would be a fool to try to stand and bang with Corey Sandhagen. I think this is going to be a very interesting fight because Corey's been really liking mixing it up with the striking and the takedowns. I just hope that Corey doesn't try to go to Umar's #1 game plan and do a Bobby Green. That wouldn't raise any red flags for me, but Corey Sandhagen should win this. He should be able to keep it on the feet with his wrestling leveling up recently. I gotta imagine that he should be able to stuff it, but maybe, I don't know, maybe Umar is that guy and he's stronger than Bilal and he just picks up Corey and drops him on his head. It's going to be very interesting to see. I'm very excited. This is one sick fight.
Yeah, it's very sick, and I mean, you gotta love Sandhagen. Obviously, at plus 240, minus 300 Umar against Sandhagen is disrespectful, like you said, for sure. And I think the one thing that gives me most confidence in Sandhagen is that performance against Song Yadong for Sandhagen, right? Because Corey was stuffing a lot of takedowns, and we know Song Yadong as a very powerful wrestler, competent grappler. He's a team alpha male guy, and is a very high level himself. So I don't know if he's on the grappling level of Eagles MMA Umar as a Nurmagomedov, so to speak, but I liked what I saw from Sandhagen from the takedown defense department, and that was at the end of 2022. So a guy like Corey Sandhagen who always gets better, he's always trying to level up. He's a dude who's very analytical about his skill set and what he needs to do to improve. Gotta imagine with 2 more years of anti-wrestling, he's going to be ready enough to deal with Umar. So I'm with you, meat boy. I like Corey Sandhagen at plus 240. It's an interesting one because Tapology overwhelmingly is, or excuse me, the odds makers are overwhelmingly rolling with the Nurmagomedov, but Tapology is basically split 52% rolling with Umar, 48% go with Sandhagen. So essentially a coin flip, and it's a lot of beige on both sides. Do you agree that this fight likely goes the distance, or if you're taking Sandhagen, are you going by finish?
Yeah, if Sandhagen, I feel like it's gonna be. I feel like it's either gonna be Umar submission decision or Sandhagen KO or decision. That's kind of how I see it. I'm leaning KO. That would be epic. Maybe even a flying knee reads the takedown. That's what I gotta imagine. He's gotta be drilling it. He's gotta be practicing it. You know that takedown's coming. It's just a matter of when and how.
Yeah, very excited for this one. Again, I'm taking Corey. Not sure if it's going to be by finish or decision, but officially I'll say Corey decision in a close fight. One that maybe Nurmagomedov wins a round, but I think Corey's winning 4 rounds in this fight. However, if this fight is close and it goes the distance, gotta imagine they're going to reward Umar. So Sandhagen, is probably going to be gunning for a finish to really shut everyone up, but I hope that it's dominant and the judges can essentially stay out of it as opposed to being a close competitive decision where perhaps Sandman is on the wrong end of the stick. So I'll go Sandhagen 4-1. Hope he gets a finish though. Officially, are you going Sandhagen decision or a finish? I might have missed it.
I'm gonna go KO flying knee. Sandhagen.
KO flying knee, Nurmagomedov going to sleep. Let us know if meat is tripping and if Sandhagen finishes a pipe dream, or do you think that he's spot on and you're willing to roll the Sandman yourself? Good stuff, meat boy. It was a long banger again. We broke down 8. Last week we absolutely killed it. 7-1 for your boy, 6-2 for you. The meat lock cashed in the first round with ease. It's your boy Figgy this week. What is your record and how much of a lock is Fig lock?
A Fig lock is one of the locks of all locks. I mean, Figgy's always a lock, unless it's versus Brandon Moreno, basically. Then it's 50-50. Yeah, this is an absolute banger. I think I'm gonna go 6-2, just like last week. Maybe 5-3. I do worry on the Tony one, but I can't disrespect Tony like that, so I had to pick him.
Yeah, go Tony. Hope he gets it done. Crazy that Nick Diaz was even supposed to be on this card too, but we'll have to settle with just Tony Ferguson. Maybe he'll cash that plus 440. You say you go 6-2. I'm with that. I go 6-2 as well this week. Let's hope Figgy cashes as that meatlock though to keep the streak intact. So, any last thoughts, meat boy? UFC on ABC 7, episode 182 in the books.
Nope, another banger in the books. Stay tuned, subscribe, smash that meat, follow, and check out the other videos.